Hi, this is John Goodman. I am recording this in the fall of 2001. Fall of 2021. Why am I so excited about it? Because the Division of Real Estate has changed its contract forms this year. And so lots of fun and exciting stuff, all of it good, all of it very well intentioned. And we'll see how it plays out in the field. So what I'm talking about right now relates to inspection objection, something that comes up very frequently in real estate transactions, something that's hopefully very relevant. Imagine this scenario. You're involved in a transaction, and this is a transaction that went under contract on day 0. That's MEC day, mutual execution of contract. Then there is an inspection objection deadline. Inspection objection deadline, let's say, is 10 days into the deal. And after the inspection objection deadline, there is an inspection resolution deadline that is 3 days later. So in between inspection objection and inspection resolution is this 3-day period where potentially there will be an opportunity to negotiate resolution of inspection objections from the buyer. What I might call during this video, the game of chicken period between buyer and seller to resolve inspection issues. Now, in this period, imagine that the buyer has given timely notice of objection. Let's say the buyer has objected to the condition of the roof. The buyer has given timely notice of objection about the condition of the roof. There's a 3-day window in which to negotiate things. What happens if, say, just 1 day into that window, 1 day into the window, the buyer says, look, I got a bad vibe from the seller. I don't think this is going to go well. I don't have a lot of confidence in the seller. Let's stick a fork in this deal. Let's kill this deal. And assuming that the buyer has the right to terminate the contract, remember there's 3 deadlines: inspection objection, notice to terminate, and inspection resolution. Can the buyer pull the plug on the deal, say on day 11 or day 12, or even before the expiration of day 13? Can the buyer exercise their right to terminate, even though this game of chicken process, this negotiation period, has not played out? And in the 2021 revisions that will kick in January 1, 2022, in these revisions, the drafters of the Real Estate Commission Approved Contract have tried to decisively answer that question I just asked. No, the buyer cannot pull the plug on the process. The buyer must allow that process to play out. And let me show you 2 ways in which they've tried to accomplish this. So I'm going to use the screen share thing. Bear with me for a second. I am clicking right there. I guess you're going to see that whole screen. I am going to expand this then, just so you get the full benefit of the big type size. So we're looking at this language here. You know, if buyer is unhappy with the results of the inspection, buyer may, and one of the options is still to terminate on or before the termination deadline, notify seller in writing pursuant to a certain paragraph that the contract is terminated. Here's the new language: provided the buyer did not previously deliver an inspection objection. Buyer's right to terminate under this provision expire upon delivery of the inspection objection to the seller pursuant to 10.3.1. So the buyer has to let the process play out. All right, seems fair. Fair is a good thing. But there's no free lunch in the world. And so what mischief might this cause? So one mischief it might cause is, imagine the contract is written. Now picture the dates and deadlines chart. We're not talking about time moving this way now. We're talking about the dates and deadlines chart, which has rows in it. We used to have the rows set up like this. There used to be inspection objection, inspection termination, and inspection resolution. And now in the new contract form, they've reversed the order. So it's inspection, termination, inspection, objection, inspection, resolution. Why did they do that? Well, I think it's good that they did that, because what they're trying to do is reinforce the message that inspection termination deadline should not be after inspection objection. And what I'm encouraging you to do, one action item of this video, is to make inspection termination and inspection objection on the same date. But not all of your colleagues will watch this video. And what happens if a contract is set up so that inspection termination is set up later? Now going back to time moving this way, suppose a contract is written where inspection objection is on day 10, inspection resolution is on day 13, and inspection termination is on day 13. Those buyers might think they have the right to pull the plug on day 11, day 12. The pre-printed language says they don't. The way the blanks are filled in the contract implies that they do. Which controls, the pre-printed language or the way the blanks are filled in the contract? I think the way the drafters intended this is likely to hold up in court. I think that the seller has the better argument that the buyer does not have the ability to prematurely pull the plug on the process, but it might take a long time for courts to rule on that, if they ever rule on that. We're not talking often about big money here. And in the meantime, you can imagine skirmishes about that. There's a second concern that may come from this. And that is, what's the point of the buyer having to play out the process unless the buyer has to play out the process in good faith? And you can imagine sellers in response to the inspection objection about concerns about the roof saying, fine, I'll replace the roof. But the buyer's enthusiasm for the property has chilled. Is the buyer obligated to accept that fix? The buyer can say, well, I don't trust the roofer who you hire. I don't trust you to get this done before closing. Seller says, you pick the roofer then. We'll extend the closing. Skirmishes might unfold like that. And because of the way this is set up, the seller has both more legal clout to argue that the buyer is not acting in good faith during the game of chicken period. And regardless of the legal merits, there might be more psychological cause for the seller not to cooperate with getting the earnest money back to the buyer when the buyer just wants to stick a fork in the deal, pull a plug on the deal, and kill it. Okay, what are the action items? How do you keep your clients out of hassles related to this? So one of them is easy. When you're on the buyer's side of the transaction, do not make the inspection termination deadline after inspection objection. Make it on the same date or earlier. Setting it later could create false expectations in your buyer. Do not set the inspection termination deadline when you're on the buyer's side later than inspection objection. What about if you're on the listing side? I encourage you to look to see how those dates and deadlines are filled in. And if inspection termination is identified as being after inspection objection, and at least if there's something else to counter about, I encourage you in the counter to move inspection termination and inspection objection to the same day. Sync those dates up. Don't have inspection termination be after inspection objection. The other practice pointer is when you're on the buyer's side. If your buyer is submitting an inspection objection, just use the inspection objection to identify the problem. You don't need to identify the solution. Some of us remember a time where inspection objection, inspection resolution were all in the same form. They're not anymore. The Division of Real Estate has enabled a process where you can just identify the problem without identifying a solution. And when you have, say, a 3-day window in which to resolve things, maybe what you do, just as a matter of negotiation, is identify the problem through the inspection objection and then try and get the listing broker on the phone and do the broker thing, do the negotiation thing, see if there's a possibility of resolving things without your buyer committing to something in writing that they might be stuck accepting. All right. That's all I got on this subject for today. Remember, it's a complicated world. Be careful out there.